So I think we'll start. Welcome everyone to this seminar, which is coming very timely on World Day for Decent Work. This seminar is being co-organized by the Swedish Teachers Union, the Stockholm TCO region of Stockholm, as well as Union to Union, which is the global or the Swedish organizations for the Swedish Trade Unions International Development Cooperation work. My name is Sofia Östmark, and I'm the Secretary General of this organization, Union to Union. Just for everyone to know that this seminar is also being live streamed on YouTube and Facebook, so that you can also watch after this seminar to see what everyone said. We're very happy and pleased to have many international guests here and be able to hear your experiences on how you see decent work from your conditions. I will just start to make a very brief presentation about decent work globally and also the work of Union to Union. So if we look at the world today, what are the challenges that we see in order to actually achieve decent work? We know that there is a lot of children work, forced labor. We also know that many workers are in informal sector and not earning the wage that they would for the work that they do. But also that there is a lot of migrant workers in the world. People die, over 6,000 people die at work each day around the world. So there are a lot of challenges, but I think also opportunities. And when we look at trade unions' work globally, you probably know as well that it's not taken for granted in many countries. Here in Sweden, about 75% of the population are engaged in a trade union or a member of a trade union, and we take it for granted, but this is not the case in many other countries. So here we also have to see that there is the space to actually organize to fight for decent working conditions globally. And I mentioned in the beginning that today is the World Day for Decent Work. And this is a day which the International Trade Union Confederation established in 2008 to celebrate decent work conditions and try to have one day a year when you can put a lot of emphasis and try to mobilize for decent work in different ways. In whatever sector you're in or whatever country you are, you can do things in order to increase government's attention to the importance of decent working conditions, but also see how you can work with other partners to get a better working environment. And this year, every year is a special theme, and this year it's Invest in Care, which is also very linked to the teachers and the discussion that we will have here today. So we at Union to Union try to reinforce the importance of global cooperation to achieve decent work. And for us in Sweden, we have tried to see that our government is putting a lot of effort in our international development work to see that we have more and better focus on decent work. Decent work, we talk about it all the time, and many that you are here, you probably already know what is decent work actually. And when you think about it, you think about maybe one thing, that you should have a decent working condition or you should have a wage that you can live on. But actually, according to the ILO, which established the decent work agenda, it's comprised of 4 different pillars. So it's about standards and rights at work. The second is about job creation and employment creation and actually enterprise development as well. The third one is about social protection, and the fourth one is about social dialogue, the cooperation between the different parties on the labor market. So it's really not one thing, but it's really a lot of things that is encompassed in decent working conditions. And we will hear today about what is it from a teacher's perspective, and then you have other sectors where it can be other things. So it's a variety of things that is comprised of the decent work agenda. And as many of you know, in 2015, all the countries in the world came together in what is called the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And this agenda is also 17 goals. And one of these goals is actually focusing specifically on decent work and economic growth. And that is goal 8. So that is something that we will discuss here today. And that was a way also to put a lot of more emphasis on the decent work agenda than it had been before. It's not only the ILO, but it's different parties all around, different international organizations and the UN that needs to focus on achieving goal 8. And this summer, every summer, each country or all countries in the world meet in New York and they have a review on the progress towards these goals. And this summer, in July, one of the goals that was specifically under attention was Goal 8. And there, what they had made a review before that to see what has been happening since 2015 until now in terms of progress to reach SDG 8. And there, they said that it's not enough is being done to reach SDG 8, but more progress is actually needed, both to be able to create jobs, not least for young people, but also the gender gap and the gender pay gap in the workplace in many countries, but also making sure that people are not actually killed or being ill at work because of the working condition they work in. So we still have a lot of work to do globally together to achieve this goal. And that is why the Swedish unions also established Union to Union, actually back in the 1970s. So it's an old organization that has been working for a long time. And what is unique with Union to Union is that it gathers all trade unions in Sweden. So it goes from all the 3 confederations and all their member unions that are part of this organization. And currently we have a direct cooperation with around 26 Swedish trade unions, so everything from teachers to engineers or architects, or it can be different occupation that are engaged. And we get funding from the Swedish development agency, SIDA, and we're one of the so-called strategic partner organization to SIDA. We have around 80 projects that is covering around 100 countries. So many of the projects that we have are actually regional in scope. It means a lot of sharing of experience between countries in the region, but also working with the global union federations on these projects. One of the assignments of Union to Union is also what we're doing here today, to actually inform and communicate about what is decent working condition and why is it important. So this is one thing that is also the mandate of this organization. We have 4 different thematic areas on where we work. The first one is about organizing and how do we achieve independent, representative and democratic trade unions. We know that in many countries the rate of organizing or the density of trade union organization is much lower than the 75% we see in Sweden. So here it's really how do we see that trade unions have members, how are they working for their structures and so on. The second area is about social dialogue, sustainable global supply chains, and just transition. So that is quite wide, but it is about how do we achieve this when we have representative and democratic trade unions. How do we achieve this cooperation on the labor market that can give good effects, both in terms of the multinational companies in which they operate, but also social dialogue with governments and employee organizations at the national level. This is also an area with just transition and the environmental aspect on how can trade unions together with their other social partners drive for a more climate neutral economy. The third one is about organizing in the informal sector, migrant workers and precarious work, and that is also an area where we see that there is a lot happening and a lot of interest also in Swedish development cooperation. The fourth one is trade unions as an actor for gender equality, and in all our projects this is a mainstreamed area, but we thought now that it's also good to have a specific program actually focusing on this, where the projects that work specifically on increasing gender equality. So I think this is what I wanted to say in the beginning, just to give you a little bit of perspective of decent working conditions globally. But this seminar is going to focus specifically on the teachers' unions, both here in Sweden, but also, or specifically more, the guests we have from around the world. So please, I hand over to you.
Maybe I'll take one of these. I changed my mind. Okay. We'll see. Now? Okay. this always happens. If it's not the computer and the PowerPoint, it's the sound. Thank you, Sofia. My name is Ina Eriksson. I come from Lärarförbundet, the Swedish Teachers Union. There are many days in the year, and I would say that almost all these days are claimed for a certain issue to celebrate, a cause that you want to shed light on, and we're here today to talk about World Day for Decent Work. Our guests, whom I will present in a second, came here for a day that we celebrate as teachers' unions. 2 days ago, the 5th of October, it was World Teachers' Day. So, we have invited our sister unions, who we cooperate with, together with Union to Union also, in Gambia, in Malawi, and the Philippines, and in Indonesia. But sadly enough, our Indonesian colleague had to leave today, so she is not with us. We have been discussing things of common interest, finding out that despite different contexts, different conditions that we work in, we share a lot of struggles, a lot of things that we would like to change. Our guests have not only been here in Stockholm, they have just come back from visits to Piteå, Motala, Linköping, Södertälje, Stockholm, and Gothenburg. So they have met with our local union branches in different municipalities to talk about their experiences as unionists and as teachers, and visiting our schools, visited our school representatives and local branches. I would say whenever teachers come together and talk about our struggles, our conditions, we always have in our mind also the children, the pupils, the students, because our working conditions as teachers are also the studying conditions of our students. If life and school works for them and for us, that is good working environment. Our guests who you will listen to are living and working under very different conditions, not just as teachers, but also sometimes with a struggle to exercise their union rights. Not all governments, not all private school employers like the unions. So maybe we will touch upon that also today. We're very happy that we could do this together with Union to Union today, that for this World Day for Decent Work, we could look at it from a teacher's perspective, from education sector's perspective. So we will not talk all of us here, but our group, I would like to present the whole group to you so you know who is visiting us. So if you could please stand up. I will just pass the microphone so you can tell who you are and where you come from.
I'm Milagros Ogalinda from the National Alliance of Teachers and Office Workers Philippines. I'm the General Secretary of the union.
I am Joseph Villanos. I am also from the National Alliance of Teachers and Office Workers Philippines. I am the president of the organization.
My name is Marie-Antoinette Kaur. I am the General Secretary of the Gambia Teachers Union.
My name is Farson Lehman. I'm the General Secretary for Private Schools Employees Union of Malawi from Malawi.
I am Margaret Nyoni. I'm the treasurer, the National Treasurer for Private Schools Employees Union of Malawi.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ofelia Gallardo Tabacon. I am from Philippines under the Alliance of Concerned Teachers Union. I'm the local president and a national council.
My name is Esa Sow, Deputy General Secretary, the Gambia Teachers Union.
Welcome to Sweden. Thank you. So, I will just start with one slide. on Sweden. Sophia was talking about the social dialogue, about the negotiations, so ongoing dialogue between employers and employees in education. But before we can carry out an effective dialogue with the employer, we need to know, inside our union, what are the members' aspirations, what are their working conditions, what would they like to change, what would they like in their negotiations. And we did like a membership survey, both online but also in meetings in workplaces. And the strongest issue, the word that came up the most, was time. Based on a sensation of work overload, a sensation of stress, teachers told us we need time. Time to teach. Time with the children, with the pupils, the students in my class, because we asked them what gives you joy in your daily work. They said the kids, the students give me joy, but I have so many other tasks. I need also my colleagues. I would like to plan together. I would like to be working in a way that we make the best use of all our resources in my school, but there's no time. I need resources, and maybe the main resource needed in Sweden are more teachers. We have a tremendous teacher shortage in Sweden. We calculate that in 2030 we will lack 69,000 teachers. So they want more colleagues. They also want other resource persons for the children with special needs, administrative support, but also language support. We have a lot of different languages in each school to really be able to work and give quality education. That language skills and facilitators in class who can communicate with the pupils is also very important. Some even say time to breathe, time for a break, time to reflect. So this is one of the keys here for what would be decent work and a decent working situation for our members. But now I will leave to Falison from Malawi, from PSEUM, to talk about what it would mean for you in Malawi.
Yeah, good evening, comrades. As said earlier, I'm Falison Lehman from Private Schools Employees Union of Malawi, representing teachers in private schools. Maybe for some of you it's your first time to hear about the name country Malawi. Malawi is a landlocked country situated in the southern eastern Africa, down there. It has borders with Mozambique, Tanzania, and Zambia. It has a population of 17.5 million people. It has a very youthful population. It was almost 6.3 million people are between 5 and 17 years, meaning that there are more that are supposed to be in school. Decent work in Malawi, from the perspective of a teacher. As a country, Malawi has a decent work country program, being a member of ILO. Now within that, all the 4 pillars that are in line with decent work are well stipulated within that document for decent work, that is employment creation, fundamental principles and rights at work, social dialogue, as well as social protection. All these are well articulated within the document set by the government. Now, as teachers a union, with interest that there is need for our teachers to have decent work, we have that understanding that if they are working under decent environment, the dream to achieve quality education is going to be fulfilled. Because if we don't provide decent work, definitely it will be very difficult to deliver quality education. So we find this document very useful as it is used during the negotiations we have with employers. So the first pillar is fundamental principles and rights at work. As I said, Malawi has a legal framework governing fundamental principles and rights at work, including freedom of association and collective bargaining. It has to be noted here that despite having well laid down rules that govern freedom of association, Malawi ratifying a convention concerning freedom of association, however, we still have challenges with some private school employers that do not fully allow the union to organize, that do not allow the teachers within the schools to join the union. Sometimes there is victimization, directly or indirectly. So our duty as a union is to endeavor to ensure that we engage the school owners for them to understand that they are operating within a legal requirement, and to allow the teachers to join the union, to allow the union to organize freely so that we have a strong union which can able to represent the teachers. The second pillar is the social security or social protection. Within the social security, it encompasses occupational health and safety, employment injury, social health insurance, pension and maternity protection. These are also articulated well within the document by the government. Unfortunately, currently, like in Malawi, teachers are not under any health insurance, meaning that with the low salaries they receive, they have to struggle whenever they are ill to receive quality health services using the money which they get. It is our hope that with the negotiations, things will improve. We also have pension in Malawi, which is mandatory. However, there are some employers that tend not to abide by the law, which is set. We have the maternity leave, which is also mandatory in Malawi, but we do not have paternity leave. These days we are talking about a child has to be well taken care of by both a father and a mother. But we have a regulation which gives space to the mother to take care of a child, but does not permit the father to have space to take care of the child. So these are some of the issues as a union we are trying to put into place to say, I think there is need for both sides so that we balance the playing field. The union continues to ensure that each and every teacher has a decent contract of employment for the protection of their rights and the job security. It has to be noted that there are some private schools that employ teachers verbally without any written agreement, which puts the teacher at a risk. To us, we take that one as a precarious condition, because anytime the employer can decide to terminate your contract because you do not agree on what should follow when this happens, when that follows. So that is a decent work deficit as far as we are concerned. So it is our duty that each and every teacher has a well-stipulated contract, a contract that is indicating that the environment will have at least decent work. The other pillar is the social dialogue. We understand that fair terms of employment, decent working conditions, safety and health at work, and development for the benefit of all cannot be achieved without involvement of teachers and the employer. There is need for the employer and the teacher to sit down to continue engaging so that they are able to improve their working condition. We cannot talk about decent work if people are not able to sit down and negotiate. So the union, in collaboration with the employer, sets the social dialogue mechanism for these people to at least have a space and a platform for negotiations so that their rights are protected. If we are indeed to achieve quality education in line with the Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which talks about quality education for all, we believe as a union that there is need for effective social dialogue between the teachers as well as the employer, where teachers' views are respected. We are the ones staying in school. We are the ones staying with the learners. So I think if the policies are to be made, our ideas are put into place, if they respect, we have needs. Like the first speaker here, they said they conducted a survey. They have heard from the teachers to say, what is it that they want? So sometimes if there is no discussion between the employer and the teachers, things may not go in line with what us as teachers need for us to deliver. This is what I heard from Malawi. Thank you so much. Ziko Mogambiri.
Thank you, Falison. I realized I should have told you that we will let all the presenters present, and we will have time for questions and answers. So please, if you were thinking of something you wanted to ask Falison, write it down or keep it in your mind, because you will have a chance to ask him. Thank you very much. I will leave the word to Essa Soe from GTU, and to Maria Antoinette, I think, who's a General Secretary of GTU Gambia, and I think you will share a bit in your presentation.
Thank you very much. As far as decent work is concerned, the global phenomenon is obvious. The pillars have been determined and the challenges are imminent. So the approach I'm taking is trying to respond to the questions that our teachers ask. That is to say, we're going to walk the talk. What are we doing as a union to confront the impending challenges and consequences? To begin with, the Gambia is a very small country. As I said to some of the staff from Lärarförbundet, to easily remember the Gambia, you just look at your middle finger. It looks like the map. Surrounded by the Republic of Senegal, the only natural border we have that we claim to be ours is the Atlantic Ocean. On a more serious note, we have a population of just about 2 million. This is the 2017 estimate. Of course, the figures have changed now. In terms of demographic profile, the Gambia is a very youthful age, of which 60% of the population are under the age of 25. Sadly, our literacy rate is 55%, which is very disturbing. We must be aware, particularly those of us who are very much glued to international media, that as a country, we are in a transition, shifting from the Second Republic to a Third Republic after 22 years of dictatorship. So as a result, we are currently engaged in a lot of institutional reforms, including system change. This, of course, is posing a lot of challenges in terms of demands, not only from the citizens, but from the teachers. We have a policy or a slogan to say that decency is no disgrace. So when we talk about decent work at the Gambia Teachers Union, we are not only talking about one of the fundamental pillars that has to do with access to jobs. This is a priority area, but access to quality jobs, which leads to decent work, where we are challenged to ensure that workers maintain their dignity. There's an issue of equality and fair income and safe work conditions. There are 3 cross-cutting issues that I'll be discussing. One has to do with creating employment. But in this perspective, I'm going to look at a particular scenario. We conducted a survey and realized that over 550 teachers out of the 15,000 public servants have worked between 20 years to 34 years without ever being promoted. That is to say, they've been on the same grade for quite that long. And as a result, the rate of employment of teachers to management positions is very slow. Appointment promotions are centralized in my country. So we conducted a survey, we collected data and presented this data to the Personal Management Office and the Public Service Commission. And we are happy to report that just a couple of weeks ago, 39 school managers have recently been promoted as a result of our advocacy, and the second and third batch of teachers due for promotion is being finalized. In terms of social protection, teachers in the Gambia keep asking for health and medical insurance, better retirement package in terms of shelter, mobility, and other amenities. Sadly, in my countries, people work up to age 60 and still remain renting, and this has been a very big concern. We have 2 or 3 national organs. The Gambia Teachers Union Cooperative Credit Union that takes care of the socio-economic needs of our members. The Gambia Teachers Union Ladies Society that look at gender-related issues, and the Young Teachers Platform that look at young teachers issues. So in the case of our cooperative credit union, we are providing access to loan facilities to teachers. Teachers can walk in after saving for 6 months to contract loan 3 times their savings. So if you save $100, certainly when you come over after 6 months of joining the cooperative credit union, you can be given as much as $300. Providing access to affordable land. This is a landmark achievement. Regional teachers' homes have been conceived. In each of our 6 administrative regions, we've identified areas in 2 of them, and we have very close to 1,000 homes that are land, sorry to say, that we are distributing to teachers who want to build their own homes. We have also procured more than 1,500 motorbikes from the Republic of China. There are certain areas in my country, they are referred to as hard to reach. Transportation is a very big challenge. When you get in the morning, the only vehicle that plies out in the evening, if you miss that, you have to wait until the following day. In case you fall sick, it is a very big challenge. So what we have done is to institute a scheme where we are giving out loans to teachers, providing them with motorbikes that they pay in 24 months or thereabout, so that in fact these motorbikes are sadly serving as ambulances, rescuing sick and ill members. We've also entered into agreement with central government because at some point in time, the government of the Gambia made a declaration to say all teachers whose salaries are between grades 2 to 12, 12 is the highest, must transfer their salaries to the commercial banks, otherwise risk not receiving their salaries. We conducted a short survey and realized that one of the biggest regions in terms of land size has no commercial bank. So we had to present our report to central government, and finally we entered into an agreement. Central government, through the Minister of Finance or Director of National Treasury, will provide salaries of all those teachers. We provided staff to facilitate the payment, and the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education is taking care of logistics in terms of vehicles, fuel, and security. So this is also to ensure that teachers receive their salaries on time and at their various stations. And finally, we are very much into gender equality issues. We have a school-related gender-based violence. In terms of policy, if you interrogate the Gambia Teachers Union Constitution, as an annex, we have 3 principles. Our obligation to the student, our obligation to the 3 commitments, 1 to the student, to the profession, and the communities in which our teachers serve. So we have what we call a school-related gender-based violence change team that is out to make sure that schools are free from gender-related violence. So we've also created 2 structures. We have the young activists and advocates, and then a group of reporters who only do not go out to interrogate and dig out cases, but advocate and ensure that perpetrators are dealt with or handled accordingly. Female teachers in my country, this is an affirmative policy that has been put in place, so to speak, to make sure that female teachers who accept rural postings in the regions comparatively have advantage over their male counterparts in terms of giving them management positions. And also, the further you are accepted to be posted as a female teacher in the hinterland, the higher the chances, the allowances you are paid as compared to your fellow, as compared to the male teachers. In conclusion, my general secretary will deliberate on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just want to say the DJ has just told us that we are doing a lot, but we also know that we need to do a lot more. Because if you look at the opportunities, we are saying more opportunities must be created for productive work. Teachers must have improved working conditions because the conditions are being improved, but yet still, we went to a school, gymnasium, and when we went there, what we saw, our eyes almost popped out because the conditions for us are very favorable. Because we asked a teacher, how many pupils do you have in your class? And they said 20, 25. And for us, you even have up to 100 in a class sometimes. So definitely, we need more work. We have to do a lot more. Income of teachers must commensurate with the work that they do. In the Gambia, we have teachers teaching morning and afternoon, both morning and afternoon. When you teach in the morning, it's 100% your salary. When you teach in the afternoon, it's 40%. So it's one and a half when it should be maybe 2.5. So the work you do must commensurate with what you get. The average Gambian salary is $100. And if you look at the conditions, very unfavorable, hot, burning sun, sometimes 35 degrees, sometimes 38 degrees. So you can imagine. There should be better prospects for continuous professional development. Some of those teachers, once they enter the teaching profession, nothing like professional development for them. The demand is very high. And to get it, you have to really struggle. And even you can struggle, but don't get it. So we believe that continuous professional development for teachers is a must. Teachers, as civil servants, are prohibited to talk to the press. If you have an opinion, you are not allowed. And we believe that they should be given that opportunity. So as I said at the beginning, we are doing a lot, but we know that we should do a lot more. And government should take up that commitment to improve the living and working conditions of our teachers in the Gambia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now move to Asia and to the Philippines, and we will ask Brother Joseph to start us off on the challenges for decent work and what you're doing as a union. So please come.
Thank you, Sister Ina. Masantos siya labi at sikayin amin in one of my native language. Naimbang grabe para kanyayo amin in my other native language. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat in my national language in the Philippines, that is Filipino. Good evening to all of you. My federation, that is National Alliance of Teachers and Office Workers, is a federation that starts focusing mainly on organizing private schools or teachers in private schools, colleges, and universities. Although right now, we move out to organizing also teachers in state colleges and universities. So initially, we started with our teachers in the private schools, colleges, and universities. At the onset, allow me to speak something about teachers, because in the Philippines, teachers, when you ask them to speak, it is hard to convince them to speak. But the moment that they start speaking, it is hard to stop them talking. But since I was given only 15 minutes at the max, then I have to finish this. I have to stop talking on or before that 15 minutes. So, okay. Yeah. So decent work. From the perspective of the National Alliance of Teachers and Office Workers, I just presented here 3 slides, and that perhaps we'll be able to consume the 15 minutes. Decent work means a workplace free from discrimination and violence. Why? In the Philippines, we have experienced bullying of children against other children. So when we speak of bullying, we always speak about the situation of children. That is one children or one student being bullied by another student. But in the Philippines, bullying is not only about student bullying another student, it is also student bullying a teacher bullying another teacher, a principal bullying a teacher, and a parent of a student bullying a teacher. So when we speak of what we call decent work, it shall be a work free of violence. because teachers are victims of bullying by school heads, by parents, by their co-teachers, and by their students. So in the Philippines, we have a law that protects children from bullying, and right now we are asking the government to pass a law that will protect teachers from also being bullied in the school. Decent work means a work free from discrimination. In the Philippines, we have experienced a lot of discrimination. In the case, for example, of our indigenous people, our IP, they are being discriminated. They do not receive proper education. They do not have learning materials. They do not have trained teachers. They do not have schools, actually, because of their location in the hinterlands. So they are being discriminated. In the Philippines also, there is discrimination in terms of gender. There is what we call, discrimination because a teacher is a woman, and for such reason, a woman in the Philippines is always a victim of sexual harassment. Sometimes a principal will ask the teacher, who is a woman, to massage him at the back because the principal is tired, when in fact, it is the teacher that is tired for the whole day, and the principal is only sitting inside the office. So, violation of sexual harassment. Discrimination also in terms of our LGBTIQ members in the school. Because in the Philippines, our culture seems to not allow the proliferation of the LGBTI community. And in schools, they are being discriminated. And we believe in the Federation that this discrimination should be removed. That's why in the Philippines, we have launched our campaign against bullying, bullying against our students, and bullying also against our teachers. We have also launched our campaign for gender equality because we believe that inside the school, there should be what we call gender equality, no gender bias. And so in the case of our federation, we ask the government to review all our learning materials because our learning materials contain gender bias concepts. So if the learning materials are used and it contains gender bias concepts, then our children will not have the concept of gender equality when they are in school and when they leave school. So we would like the government to review all the learning materials so that it will not have gender bias concepts, so that our children will learn what we call gender equality, will learn to respect other people despite their sexual orientation, gender identity, and what we call expression. Secondly, when we speak of decent work, it implies living wage, or in our constitution, we call that decent wage. Why? Because in the Philippines, our wage is not a living wage. Our wage is not a dying wage. It is a suicidal wage. It is as if we are committing suicide by the work that we have because of what we receive. In the private sector, our daily minimum wage is 300 pesos. Compute that, and it will be roughly around $6 a day. And if you're going to look at the prices of commodities, if you're going to look at the city services, our electricity, our water, and the like, they're all being paid. There is no such thing as free in the Philippines except air, because water is also being bought in the Philippines. Then the $6 or 300 pesos will not be enough for a family of 5. If you are sending your children to school, they may be in public school, which is free, but the fare is not free. The learning materials is not free. The uniform is not free. So how will a family of 6 or 5 be able to survive with $6 a day or 300 pesos a day? So our wage is not a living wage. Our wage is a dying wage. Our wage is a suicidal wage. So it becomes a problem. That's why in the Philippines, many teachers are living in London. We are near in England, so we have London in England. Filipino teachers, majority of them are living in London because they have loan doon, loan dito. Meaning to say, we have a lot of loans from many loan sharks, such that when we retire, we do not receive anymore our retirement pay, because our retirement benefit is used to pay our loans, which we incurred while we are serving as teachers. Decent work implies that we must have living wage, not a dying wage, not a suicidal wage. Thirdly, decent work implies removal of too many non-teaching tasks. We are teachers. Our task is to teach, to educate our students inside the classroom or maybe outside the classroom. And normally in the Philippines, it is 6 hours of actual teaching every day, 2 hours of checking the paper, preparing our lesson plans, or preparing learning materials. So it becomes 8 hours. But when we go home, we still have to work for 4 hours because we have to do a lot of things, a lot of reports. If you're going to look at the slide, I put there school forms. And we have a lot of school forms to make. Every day, we have to make around 300 pages of forms, or 300 pages. Fill them up, or 200 pages, fill them up, submit them to the principal. And what will we do with the remaining hours? 6 hours actual teaching is supposed to be, it becomes 5, it becomes 4, it becomes 3, because we have a lot of forms to do. But aside from that, we also have a lot of non-teaching related tasks to do. During election, teachers are called to watch the election. We have our Department of Health, no problem, supposed to give vaccination to our children, but it is not being done by our Department of Health. It is being done by teachers. They give the vaccine to our children. They give the deworming, or should we say the tablet for deworming. So the task of the of the health workers supposed to be done by the Department of Health is being passed to the teacher. That is not the task of a teacher. It takes the time of teacher supposed to be used inside the classroom. Too many unrelated tasks of teachers. We have our statistics authority, the Philippine National Statistics Authority, supposed to do the statistics, the height of our children, the weight of our children, the gender of our children, but that is not being done by the Statistics Authority. That is being done by the teacher, because that is mandated by the principal. So our time is supposed to be spent in teaching our students. Our time is supposed to be spent in our professional development for us to be able to teach our children well. They are being taken by so many tasks not related to our function. So when we speak therefore of decent work, insofar as teachers are concerned, it is a work that is conducive, that is focused on teaching our students in order for them to become better members of society. It is the focus is for us to be able to educate our children, for them to become global citizens. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I'm going to leave the word to Ophelia to follow the presentation from Philippines, but from a slightly different perspective. If you follow the news of the Philippines, you know of a regime that is not so favorable to human rights and union rights. And in order to fight for decent work for the members, for the teachers, we also need union rights. So I will give the word to Ophelia to talk about that situation and her own experience.
Okay, good evening once again. In the Philippines, unionism is really very hard, especially that I was living in the Philippines, particularly in Mindanao, where martial law was declared. So, meaning there are so many harassment happened in Mindanao, and we as teachers are not an excuse. This our union, as I say, I'll just give you a background. Since our union was born out from the oppression against President Marcos during martial law time, so we can say that our union is branded as a radical one, and most members are activists, should they say. That is why we are always visited and monitored by the state agent. So as I joined ACT on 2014, there had been several times that I was monitored by the state agents, talking to me what I was doing in my union and even discouraging me to quit. There were even times that a particular intelligence made a background investigation on me, invading my personal life. From then on, they keep on tailing me as to where my activities and what my activities are, and even stalk on my FB account. I just keep on my work on unionism, setting my goal for civil service accreditation, despite the fact that I am a full-time teacher, teaching 8 hours a day and more. The early years of 2019 was so devastating. Why? As a unionist, I've encountered so many, shall we say, fearful events. An intelligence chief wrote a letter to my principal asking the names of the leader and its ACT union members for profiling purposes. Of course, I was alarmed. It's because that is a violation of our Data Privacy Act of 2012, wherein nobody could give you an information of a union member, but the state agent, the chief intelligence, violated that right. And I was also alarmed because it is not only happened in me, in Mindanao, but it happened to all the ACT leaders in the Philippines. After the profiling, there would be a death threat, and the death threat followed by the tailing, and the tailing followed by the killing. And that's the trend in the Philippines. So, on February 22, a flyer circulating Cagayan de Oro, the place where I was teaching, was wherein ACT was included. It was included, and me, my name as an individual, was included and branded as a terrorist, as CPP-NPA members, supporters, and recruiters. By the way, NPA means New People's Army, which means that is a the arm wing of the CPP, the Communist Party of the Philippines. And me, as a teacher, I was included in the list of NPA supporter, and the worst, I was also branded as a terrorist. On March in the same year, I received a subpoena. A subpoena was sent to me to let me answer because my name was included in an NPA raid incident of army. So my name was included in the list of those people who attack the camp of the military in some particular place in which, honestly, I have not gone even once. So it is somewhere in Sibagat or Surigao del Sur. It's away, several meters away outside Region 10. So, Another year, on the same year again, malicious poison letters was thrown in front of my school, branding my union and me as again a terrorist, and I should be living in that particular region of ours, and we are also declared as a persona non grata. So meaning to say that I will not be living, and I will not be teaching in our school. So that poison letter was thrown from fence to fence outside the gate of our school. So I was very, very worried. It's because we consider a school as a war-free zone. Yet they are throwing some poison letters, malicious letters. So what if parents could read that? What if students could read that I am one of the terrorists? Do I have still the dignity for them? Of course not. Again, on April 1, I received a death threat through messenger telling me that my death is near and my name is already included in the list of kamatayan. Kamatayan is a Tagalog term for death. So meaning to say that my death is near because my name was also included in the list. Then it was followed before the election day when somewhere in Bukidnon, the Region 10, wherein that is still my area of responsibility, my name was spray-painted on a wall at the side of the National Highway, together with a lawyer and a Bayan Muna representative that is in our legislative body, or it's a parliament, which reads that Zarati plus Musni plus Tabacon, my family name, equals NPA, meaning we three are NPA. And I think it is very embarrassing in our part. It's because it was written in a vandalism form. So they vandalized the post, the wall, bearing our name. And since it is a national highway, so naturally, people from all over Philippines, all over the Region 10 who would pass that would say our name. So, lastly, in September 12, this last month, as we are about to conduct a seminar on unionism, my school gate had been posted a malicious poster showing my pictures of different activities with captions describing me as recruiter of NPA, teaching my children of communism, and molding them to become a communist. Not only that, at the venue of the seminar, I was given a bouquet of flowers, an envelope disguising the name of Franz Castro, our Alliance of Concerned Teachers representative. So what was inside in it was a tarpaulin, which is written, "Welcome participants, Viva CPP NPA." And the poster has also the same that was posted in my school gate. And there again has a death threat telling that I should stop what I am doing because before it is too late. The one thing that I am very much worried is my eldest son and my daughter-in-law was also included in the poster that was posted in my gate. They branded my son as the terrorist as an NPA leader and my daughter, in which that was the ground that my son and daughter had been going away from our region, leaving his 2 kids in the care of their parents. And because they have 4 children, they only bring the 2 younger ones. The other is even a special child. And yet, they cannot go home in Mindanao. Because as they go home, they will be arrested without due process and without any fault, without any without any felony. Because prior to that, 1/6 by containing, I think, 20 soldiers went to the house of my daughter-in-law and inviting her to come to the camp. In the Philippines, especially in Mindanao, wherein the martial law was declared, inviting is tantamount to arresting without warrant of arrest. That is why I told them that please leave Mindanao, because we the family, the 3 of us in the family are already red tag. Me as a recruiter of NPA and my son as a leader of the NPA and his wife. But despite of these threats, the red tagging and other malicious act, branding my name and the ACT Union, it did not stop me on my goal, and that is advancing my fellow teachers' rights and welfare through unionism. Amidst hardship in union accreditation campaign brought about by martial law and militarization in Mindanao, this is a sort of union busting. But it still encouraged me and took it as a challenge. After all, they could have not done these things if I did not make a difference in every teacher's lives. Maybe this would cowed the government officials, because I am one of the channel that awaken the heart and every mind of the teachers. Thank you and good afternoon. Good evening.
I showed them all.
The pictures? Okay.
Thank you very much, Ophelia. So, conditions at work, conditions to be able to work, and conditions to be a unionist varies a lot. Someone in the group, I think it was Joseph, who said today, despite that, we are family. Even if we're not suffering the same things, we can feel as a family, and our family bonds are our solidarity. So you have been patiently listening to different situations on decent work. So I would like to invite, if anyone has a question or a comment, if you don't want to make it in Swedish, you can make in English, you can make it in Swedish and we'll translate it. So I leave the floor open. I will come to you with the microphone.
Thank you all, dear friends from international friends, for talking about your situations and your hardships in different countries. I myself am a teacher in this building, teaching in adult education. So I've been a teacher for 36 years. It seems as I can never retire. I just love my work so much. And my heart is really with you with all the hardships, and of course, especially Ophelia. And I think it's probably for all of us very shocking And I was immediately thinking, you must have help. Who can help? You could, for example, Amnesty, any organization like Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch, could it be reported to them? Because this is not acceptable, your situation. I mean, it's really shocking. And it's a torture for you and also, of course, for your family, your own son and your daughter-in-law and all that. So that is my, maybe if there is a comment or so, to console us all, and especially Ophelia, of course.
So is there help? Is there protection for the teachers, the unionists in Philippines who are under threat?
Well, first that I did was, of course, I went to the police. But who owns the police? Yeah. But of course, I have to. It's because it's a protocol, so that if something will happen, then it's already in the police report. Then I go to the Commission on Human Rights. I am thankful because Commission on Human Rights was not taken over by our president. It is still a human rights that are still against the way how Duterte treated the other. It was not shall we say take over by Duterte. But then for the other union members, of course, they are really afraid of. Actually, there are to isolate myself, there are two members of mine who are also red tag. Even if they are not even a union organizer. They are just a plain member. But what did they do the other day? Some anonymous, some fake account in the Facebook is posting their names and tag them as a terrorist. I know they know that they are not terrorists, but they are just doing that so that these two people are afraid and they would not go near me. And then they will do that in so many members and so many teachers. Then maybe for me to be isolated and nobody will come to me. So,
Can I add something? And it's that during this week that we have been gathered, another case of a death threat to one of the teachers and members in ACT happened. And we also had ACT's General Secretary here, and he did what you said. He called, as you did, the Human Rights Commission in the Philippines, Amnesty International, and also our Global Union Federation, Education International, so that there are many ways of making it known through different channels. Sometimes I hear our Filipino colleagues say that their president is also sensitive to international criticism. So it is important. You can find on our blog, on our website, on our Facebook as Lärarförbundet, we also try to publish when things happen, and if you can write a protest letter. So our president also, Johanna Jara Ostran, she has also written letters to the Filipino government when we feel that colleagues, and we know that colleagues are being threatened. So. Other questions, comments? Please introduce yourself.
Yes, I should do that. My name is Svante Holm. I'm from the regional TCO organization in Stockholm. And I've been working with trade unions for many years, not as a teacher, but in other aspects. And of course, it's very difficult for us in Sweden, where we have a rather peaceful situation, to realize the problems and the situation that you are working on in many countries. I especially remember once I was in Guatemala and visited trade union's office, and this was a poster with a lot of portraits, and we thought, oh, yes, that's our trade union leaders. No, it was the people that was shot as trade union leaders. So it's a very important, and I think that also we have to remember we are here today. The teachers union of Sweden has always been very good working internationally, but it's also very important for all trade unions in Sweden to work internationally and support our colleagues around the world, because that's the only way we can have both freedom, democracy, and prosperity in different countries is through supporting the trade unions. And I also would like to thank Union to Union, because it's very important that the information gets out in Sweden, and we shall not forget our comrades in other countries. I have not a question, but I will like to express the support of the Swedish trade unions and hope that we can give you support and cooperation in the future also. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karina Söderbjörn. I'm working with Union to Union, and thank you so much for sharing with us. And on a slightly more positive note, I was very happy to hear about the Gambia Teachers Union, about the school-related gender-based violence change team. And I would like to hear a little bit more about how you work. I think it's important for all of us, because there's an issue everywhere.
They're pointing to you, Marie Antoinette.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm quite pleased to answer that question. The SRGBV Change Team is an initiative that was introduced by UNGAI, United Nations Girls Education Initiative, supported by Gender at Work through Education International. Series of activities, just to cut it short, were introduced before the change team members were identified. In every country, we have 5 people. 3 ladies and 2 gentlemen are the change team members. But then the project is in 9 different countries. In fact, in a couple of days' time, all the general secretaries in the countries implementing the SRGBV activity will meet in Accra to review what we have been doing so far. So for us in the Gambia, the change team members, we work with students in schools and teachers most specifically. Because the idea is to bring teachers out, have discussions with them, let them tell their stories about school-related gender-based violence, which ranges from corporal punishment, sexual harassment and abuse, bullying, etc., etc. So also, just recently, we were able to implement an activity that brought in some young activists, because we know this is World Teachers Day theme, teachers the future, young teachers the future of the profession. So we tried as much as possible to bring young teachers on board in everything that we are doing. So just recently, we had an activity and we identified 30 leading activists, we call them leading activists, to fight SRGBV, to help us fight SRGBV. Because SRGBV, the violence part is pronounced. We have so many young teachers. When the DGS was doing his presentation, he told us that we are a very youthful country. So we have so many of our young teachers going out in the provinces, going out postings, young, timid, inexperienced, broke, depressed, shocked, etc., etc. So they need a shoulder to lean on. So we are there to support them. We are there to help them. We are there to say to them, if you have these issues, come to us and we will see how best we can help you. I know we can talk a lot about the change teams. We can talk a lot about what we are doing to address some of the issues that are happening. And if I tell you, even living in the Gambia, some of the stories that these young teachers tell us are shocking to us. Because maybe some of us are different, we are assertive, we can say no. But some of them, you will not understand, as the DGS said, you have to travel 14 kilometers off the main road to go to a school. You don't even have $1 on you. You go in September, you are not going out until December, when the term ends. So you can imagine the things that can happen to you. So Esther, I'm sure the DGS will just add something. Well, he's a member of the chain team anyway, so.
I'm not sure whether that was sufficient. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, to be honest with you, some people live in a sense of denial. But we have realized that when we started calling teachers and asking them to tell their stories, some of them were living with this trauma or inconvenience for quite a while. And that helped a lot. So we have a system in place where we try to bring together 60 teachers within a particular region. Out of these 60, at least half must be male, half must be female. And out of the 62, at least 30 of them must be 30 years and below. Predominantly young and female. So that we try to inculcate in them that sense of assertiveness so that they can speak out. Because culturally, at times, our women, and younger ones for that matter, find it difficult to speak out. So it entails a lot of issues. Also, in terms of principle and in terms of policy too, the experiences that we collected from such activities are informing our draft gender policy that we are finalizing. So in terms of process too, we were using some of those findings to inform the frameworks that we are developing to protect, in code, our young ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment or question? You are also timid.
What I may quickly want to say is that you see a very young, inexperienced, beautiful girl or lady, because of the difficulty of certain areas, the person might be abused by an officer, asking for favors, perhaps sexual favor, failure of which you might find yourself in a very remote area. So some of these things, activities would help you to relate with the union and tell your story, and then we intervene and then address some of these. Although some of them are isolated, but the fact that you have 1 or 2 reported cases gives you the possibility or the tendency that you might have 10 others somewhere else not addressed. Thank you.
My name is Paul Savage from the Union of Teachers here in Stockholm, Lärarförbundet. One of the ideas I think that could be followed definitely, and I was suggested earlier, is this idea of collecting information and spreading it, so that even if it's difficult to spread the information about the terrible things that some of you have described happening inside your own country, that you can spread it abroad, because there is definitely a sensitivity for many of these dictators outside. They're very concerned about how they are perceived by the world outside. We know this, for example, from our work here in the city with the Teachers Union Egitemsen in Turkey. We know that the regime is very sensitive to that. It doesn't always lead to immediate results, but it can lead to a step forward. So I think it would be very good for us to have a continued contact in order to help you spread information about these things that are happening, so that something can be done about it. Because if people are aware outside and protest about it, I think that can be a very valuable contribution.
Thank you very much. Is there someone else who's sitting thinking something you would like to? Yeah, Sophia wants to chip in.
So thank you very much for all the presentation. It's very interesting to hear your different condition, and also, of course, very moving and really depressing to hear what threats you are under as well. Just maybe one question, how is it, I mean, the obstacles in terms of the Philippines to organize in unions, but what kind of interest do you see from other teachers in your countries to actually join a trade union, work with others for decent work? I mean, how is the trade union density among teachers in your different countries? It would be interesting to know a little bit more about that.
So, teachers union density. How well are we faring in organizing in different countries, and who would like to start?
In my country, 85% of teachers are members of the Gambia Teachers Union. As we speak right now, we are 16,500 out of a potential of 20,000. And then, interestingly, we registered a 100% growth during this transition 2.5 years ago. Thank you.
Sister?
Okay, good evening. It is unfortunate to say that as regards to the teachers union, about 700 from the private sector and 200,000 plus from the public sector. Only around 20% for the private are unionized, and still struggling for recognition are unions from the public sector. And of course, the tedious process of the recognition is so much. The Philippine government has that machinery to really stop you, preventing you to be recognized. As regards to the private sector, the teachers are not really keen, especially the young one, to be a part of the union. That is why our advocacy now is really to include them. And we are very much thankful that the experience we had in this visit has something open our eyes to change strategy, because students here are already a member. They are members of the union. And I believe that is a good method of preparing them for the reality of the work and the obstacles or the hardship of being an employee without a union. And probably next convention or Congress, we will see to it that it will be an amendment to our constitution. Again, we try so hard because our partners, the Lärarförbundet, EI, help us a lot to really expand our membership. Despite those obstacles that our comrades are from Philippines and of course my president have expressed in this activity, we never stop. And in fact, we are going against, our enemy is not the government, actually. It is the employer. And they are businessmen. They have all the means to entice the teachers who are about to become our members not to join the union, because you will not be promoted, you will not be given such special treatment, you might be out of employment, because in the Philippines we have the 3 years probationary period for private school. It is in the manual of regulations, and that is why we never stop until the very last time that we try to reduce the number of years of teachers to become a regular, and we are already progressing on that. Our teachers union, the affiliated ones in our organizations, have the 1 year as they come into the school as employee, and then the second year they become a member of the union. I think that is a very good success for us.
I just want to add a bit on the union density. For us as Gambia Teachers Union, I can comfortably say we are really organized, and we have the structures, we have all it takes. But for the past 2 years, we have been trying to form a confederation. We have been trying to bring other unions on board so that we'll have a confederation, because we know together we are stronger. What they're afraid of us. I think that's that is the only thing I can say, because everybody is protecting your turf. Because a lot of them, they have briefcase unions. A lot of them, it's a family affair. A lot of them, it's just the husband, the wife, and maybe the 2 children. And when Solidarity Center came, when ITUC Africa and ITUC Brussels came, they did mapping, they did sectoral mapping and organizer trainings and all these things. They realized that they are not too strong. So they asked Gambia Teachers Union to take the lead. So now we are really struggling. Even to call up a meeting is a problem. We have a draft constitution. To come and, we sit around the table and look at the constitution is another issue. Not less to talk about a Congress. Because they know if they go to Congress, most probably, some of those positions will slip through their fingers. So we have an interim body, but trying to organize that Congress is a big issue. So in terms of union density, as a union, we are really strong. As Gambia Teachers Union, we are really strong. But the other sectors, we are struggling to bring them on board. And I know they need it. But bringing them on board, honestly, is driving us nuts.
Yeah, from Malawi, that is the union density. In Malawi, there are 2 teacher unions, one for public school teachers, one for private school teachers. So that's where we are coming from. On the part of the public school teachers, the situation of joining the union is so smooth, because the government does not prevent people from joining the union. That's why I think that it has to be 80% being members. If one is not joining, then it's on the personal decision of maybe why should I join the union, and not that out of fear. But when it comes to public, that is private schools, it's a challenge, because right now, out of the potential of 20,000 teachers, we have only 4,000 members that are organized. The reason is that these employers, in most cases, do not like their teachers to belong to the union. So in some cases, there are some victimization that take place directly and sometimes indirectly. As a result, people do fear to say, if I join the union, want I lose my employment? The other thing is we have different schools, and each school is an independent entity. So schools are located across the country, where organizing becomes a challenge, because we have to reach each and every place to ensure that at least the teachers are organized so that they join the union. So that's the situation. It's not open that one can say is victimizing somebody for joining the union, but these things happen indirectly, and people just see the results to say what has happened there is like a resistance. In most cases, the resistance is when you want to organize at a school, whereby you book to come to the school, you are given so many reasons up until you give up without coming to that school. So these are some of the issues that happen in our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I will see if there's a last question or a final comment. Yes?
Hi, my name is Malin Dahlberg Markstedt, and I work with Save the Children. I'm sitting here reflecting. First of all, thank you for all the information and challenges you shared. And as many already said, it's really daunting to hear your conditions. I'm sitting here thinking of the child rights agenda, since all countries in the world but one has ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and it celebrates 30 years this year. that is one agenda setting mechanism that is really vital for teachers. Why? Because teachers are paramount to children's development, and the aim also at creating a society that is sustainable, where every child can develop and thrive and become whatever he or she has within him or herself as a full potential. And at the same time, besides the UN Convention, we also strive a lot to fulfill and implement the UN, the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals. And the first one is about how to abolish poverty. And poverty, of course, links very tightly to children's rights to education. That's really the entry point for supporting societies to be able to abolish poverty as a very strategic vision. And we have all the 17 goals from a child rights perspective. Education is paramount. So I'm sitting here just on a final maybe reflection, thinking that if you, I don't know if you in your argumentation at home, and I wish for it to be stronger here also in Sweden, to argue for teachers' working conditions from a child rights perspective and from an SDG perspective, because teachers are, as I said, paramount to children, especially children who don't have maybe caregivers at home who can meet with their needs, and especially also children who live in societies where challenges are larger maybe than here, where we have a social welfare system, even though it has cracks and holes in it here too. So I'm just reflecting and being a bit frustrated of the fact that teachers are striving all over the globe, and you shared your challenges, and we heard from the union here in Sweden about the challenges of time. That was the entry point. And then we hear about what you are exposed to, Ophelia, which is really frustrating. And it all boils down to the fact that you teachers should have status and decent working conditions so that children can fulfill their dreams. Okay, thank you.
I'm really pleased to meet you. Just to quickly let you know that the Gambia Teachers Union is a sitting member of the Board of Directors of the Child Protection Alliance in my country, which is a consortium of about 36 organizations. And of course, the Alliance do work closely with Save the Children, because there are a lot of programs that I'm aware that it sponsors. And also, nationally, we have a task group, Child Protection Task Group, that the General Secretary sits as the chairperson. And incidentally, she's also the chairperson of the Network for Gender-Based Violence in my country. So we are very much into it. I said there in the introduction that we have 3 principles. Commitment 1, first and foremost, is to the child, to the profession, and to the communities. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing this up. I would like to just give a reflection from Sweden, because this is a priority area for EI as a global federation, but also for Lärarförbundet. And we try to spread the message that, I mean, the SDGs is for every country. So now we have just celebrated World Teachers' Day, but in the end of April every year we have a Global Action Week where we highlight the goal 4 and the other SDGs. And in the last Congress, our union also included SDGs 4 as a goal for the union, both for Sweden and from a global perspective. So this is for us a crucial, and Education International also contributed, we together, unions, contributed to get it as a single goal. Because in the first draft it was not a single goal, it was just to get people educated to get employed, but we forced, together with you and others, also that it's the human right and the children's rights. So thank you for bringing that perspective.
So, thank you very much, everyone. In the beginning, I said that when teachers talk about their conditions, they always keep the children in mind. And it's also good to hear that a lot of child right activists and strong organizations keep teachers and the role of education in mind. So we have alliances. Also, in times of abuse of human rights, we have alliances. We as a unions, but also with other organizations and concerned citizens. And I'm glad that you have also said there is possibilities to share situations and build solidarity. And union to union, the teachers union, the TCO council or regional group, we are part of that. Tonight we were 3 organizations coming together, and I'm very thankful to each and every one of you who came tonight, and thank you to our guests especially for sharing your experiences, and I'm sure we'll meet again in other circumstances and moments. Thank you all.